hope everyone that is now listening has watched the first part. It is the only way to understand why you are the way you are and who or what made you that way. I have a massive amount of information, and in the first documentary I didn't concentrate on a few issues because you wouldn't know what you now know. I hope by now you realize that there are forces around you and inside you that guide and protect you all throughout your life. Hippocrates referred to these forces when he said, "Natural forces within us are the true healers of disease." Others refer to them as the life force, and Jesus referred to them as the spirit within. Hippocrates also said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine thy food." By now you should also understand that all foods are made up of elements, including you and the world around you, as science is now teaching. As I said, they only teach this when they have been allowed to defile everything you eat, drink and breathe, as predicted by Jesus. This proves what Jesus was teaching, that you are mind, body and spirit. They are one because they are made up of the same elements, and in the beginning they were all from the Creator of God, the good in our universe. But now, because of science, there are now elements of the other God in you and around you, and it all started with the apple, as I will now prove to you further. Before I go further, I will explain how things work. I wanted to always know the truth about the mind and why we are the way we are. And there are others amongst us that have come for other answers to help heal our world and rectify all the wrong. There are many brilliant people out there helping us, but sadly most of them cannot explain what they are doing. So I have pieced together all their research to show you the bigger picture.
Where does the patulin mold come from?
Patulin is found in other fruits and plant materials too, but apples is where we get most of it. You can hardly peel an apple without seeing some mold under the peeling, and that will have patulin in it.
Is that what we see in the brown spot?
Yes, that's what the brown spot is. It isn't really a brown spot, it's a moldy spot.
How do you suggest we prepare our fruit, and how should we eat it?
Mostly don't eat it. Peel those.
Once again, that clip should prove enough, because the apple is the oldest foods we were warned of, and we see cancer causing elements on it and in it. I have shown you also the book of black magic that tells the story of Isis and the two gods, one being the cosmic serpent that Jesus warned us of, and looking at the apple, it looks like an egg of a snake or serpent. When the Bible was originally written in the 4th century, the word for evil and apple was the same. Malam was the word used for both. This article from the New Scientist, 26th of September 2015, is further proof, if any is needed, that it was the apple, and it also explains how it changed our DNA. The piece on the wasp mentions that viruses were used by the wasp as a biological weapon, and certain humans use food to carry out biological warfare on us, and the apple was the first such foods. The apple is a chemical and biological weapon, and this is how sugar got into our DNA. The article is about a wasp that genetically modifies butterflies. It teaches that there are numerous species of wasp that lay eggs in caterpillars, and when the larvae hatch, they feed on the caterpillar's body, and that the wasp has evolved a truly extraordinary way of subduing the caterpillar's immune system to stop it attacking their offspring. The female wasp produces millions of virus-like particles in her ovaries and injects them into the caterpillar along with an egg. The viruses invade almost every type of cell in the caterpillar's body, and their DNA gets integrated into its genome. Normal viruses carry genes for the proteins they need to replicate, but Brachyviruses, as they are called, are different. They carry genes, some of which originally come from the wasp, that turn off the caterpillar's immune defences and render it helpless against the wasp's larvae. Brachyviruses can no longer replicate themselves. Instead, the genes for making them have become incorporated into the wasp genome. In other words, over the past 100 million years, wasps have tamed once free-living viruses and turned them into the sophisticated biological weapons. Sometimes a wasp lays eggs in the wrong host, in which case the larvae might not survive, but the Brachyviruses still get into the caterpillar and can find their way into the genome of the developing egg or sperm cells. They will then become a permanent part of its genome. The story in the Bible teaches that the apple was created by the serpent, that you now know to be the cosmic serpent, the cosmic forces Jesus warned us of. The millions of virus-like particles in the apple is yeast, and yeast is a prion, and all brain diseases are prion diseases. CJD, caused by the meats, is one, and Zika is another, that eats away at the brain. This is proof that these viruses get into you via your foods, the apple being the first. And 6 out of the last 8 plagues have been discovered 100% to be born from foods. They are food-borne plagues. Recent meat scandals prove this research. All plagues are bacteria, and the dairy industry is another way for bacteria to enter your body, and all sugary foods. And science teaches that in a healthy body they can be kept under control, but why have them in the first place? All bacteria and fungus are creations of the other God. They all descended from yeast. We have prions in our brain, and yeast tricked our prions and took over parts of our brain, the inner part of our brain. Prions carry chemicals from the gut to the brain, and all chemicals have messages, and the more yeast you have, the more confused your mind will be. This is why Freemasons who created science avoid yeast, because they say it creates a fuzzy mind. And it is now why science is teaching that our first brain was reptilian. This is after they infested our foods, which has allowed yeast to invade our brain, and it is why they flooded the food chain with the elements of the apple when Europe was formed, a union controlled by a scientific organisation called Codex Alimentarius, Latin for food code. As I said in the first documentary, our ancients knew that yeast was a fungus because they called it Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and this means sugar mold or sugar fungus. Saccharose being combining from sugar, myces being fungus. The apple is a sugary food, and so is all fruit, and the Antichrist's political party tricked everyone they needed fruit as their 5 a day that contains patulin, a cancer-causing toxin. Every chemical they produce creates a different microbe, fungus or bacteria, and these then all grow inside you, all because of processed foods that they say needs additives, preservatives and taste enhancers. Dr. Hulda Clark's research proves this fact, and here are some of her findings. The worst parasite, Fasciolopsis buschii, is the fluke, flatworm, that I find in every case of cancer, HIV infection, Alzheimer's, Crohn's disease, kyphosis, endometriosis, and in many people without these diseases. Its life cycle involves 6 different stages. Note, the adult is the only stage that normally lives in humans, and only in the intestine. Fasciolopsis buski depends on a snail, called a secondary host, for part of its life cycle, but when your body has solvents in it, the other 5 stages can develop in you. If propyl alcohol, found in bottled water and most body care products, is the solvent, the intestinal fluke is invited to use another organ as the secondary host. This organ will become cancerous. If benzene is the solvent, the intestinal fluke uses the thymus for its secondary host, setting the stage for AIDS. Wood alcohol invites pancreatic flukes to use the pancreas as a second host. This leads to pancreatic dysfunction, which we call diabetes. If xylene or toluene are the solvents, I typically see any of the 4 flukes using the brain as a secondary host. If methyl ethyl ketone, or MEK, or methyl butyl ketone, MBK, are the solvents, the virus becomes a secondary host and endometriosis is a likely result. CJD, Zika, they are all types of prions, and yeast was the first virus to spread disease, especially cancer. I can understand why doctors do what they do. It is because they have been through a course of indoctrination while they were at university, and most will finish university with only the knowledge they have accumulated during their studies. Indoctrinate, to teach someone to accept, especially without questioning, a set of beliefs. Religion and science both trick you to do this because none of you know much about either of these subjects. This is why the Freemasons teach their children, I will accept only when I can verify. This stops your mind from storing any information and it becoming part of your belief. But you foolishly continue to accept religion after everything they have done. They have committed every crime or sin on earth, including instigating wars and funding them with money they collected to help parts of the world. You all foolishly still believe in science that has defiled everything on earth, including all your minds, your most vital asset, as Jesus was to teach. Their experiments are eating away at you, our earth and the atmosphere around us, but you still follow like blind fools because all the toys they make for you. America vetoes all scientific evidence because of their laws, another system that allows them to commit evil. And this book, Fluoride Deception, teaches that they burnt evidence also. This is what a majority of doctors unfortunately do when they leave university. They just fit into a life that they have prepared for themselves, never ever questioning the fact that they see the same patients week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and all they seem to keep doing is handing out the same drugs over and over again. The world's so-called best scientist, Albert Einstein, once said, to keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is insanity. It is insanity driven by greed, which makes it satanic. After the apple was the bread that Jesus warned us of, because their bread, even the one at the altar, contained yeast, and if our ancients knew, why didn't theirs? It is because this is what they intended to do, and intentions are driven by desires. This is why they kept the knowledge from Jesus from you that has now become known as a secret. Keeping secret is one habit of science and religion, one more link between the two modes of education brought to the West by one group of people. And science was created by the secret organization, the Freemasons, that tricked you they were a charitable organisation, the same tactics used by the Vatican. The biggest expanding industry in the world ever is the pharmaceutical industry, that only formed because of sickness and disease that all started in the food chain. This is an industry that the Vatican invested in instead of giving your money to the people they collected it for, and they recently invested in alcohol, tobacco and weapons of war that they originally caused. If there are any of you out there that still cannot see the woods for the trees, then you will follow this organisation through the gates of hell once again. The serpent is one of many forms of the devil, a shapeshifter, and its offspring will be the same. And just as these people tricked us, they were the children of the gods and eventually morphed into humans like us. Yeast did the same on a cellular level, tricking our prions. It was one of the same. This allowed this organism into your brain. This is how the reptilian race theory still exists, because they are the reptilian race, and they are soon to trick you that you are of the same. Under close inspection, yeast looks like a serpent and not what it may seem, and there are people in our world who are the same, and it all started with religion, and now there's science. When something is bad for society like alcohol, it should be banned, as the Muslims did, not taxed and still made, and then blame society, and then create sayings like God doesn't mind you having fun. They did the same with smoking and sugar, both elements that come from the body and mind of the snake, and used as part of their transmutation, making you all become destroyers of yourself, or murderers of yourself, like their father, the devil. Alcohol was targeted at the young with alcopops, and cigarettes also with the vapor cigarettes that still contains nicotine, one of the most poisonous elements on earth. Every time someone attempts to help you, they use ridicule that also creates psychological slides in your mind that gets you to shut your mind. Another way they get you to stop listening is to say the person has never been to university. But you must now understand that when your body is flooded with an organism that is eating you away on the inside, this will cause disease. And also, when your body is flooded with toxins, this would cause cancers and many other diseases, as nicotine does. Psychology is used by all Labour political parties, especially the one that the Antichrist recently controlled when he caused the Third World War. What they don't teach you is Darwin never went to university, because as you've just seen, university is not the place to go to learn how to cure people. The Vatican is also not the place to go looking for the truth. People have been going in and out of there for nearly 1600 years and still don't speak the truth. Jesus taught you how life works, as I am showing you, but they kept his message from you and lied about what he was to teach, and force-fed you the elements that he warned you not to eat and his Father before him. Once these elements get inside you, they eat away at your brain, the control tower of your mind, which seems to have shrunk so much that you believe the ones that murdered him as their father did to all your ancestors before you. This is why he said, you are of your father the devil, your will is to your father's desires. Any country that now follows a system of religion or science is not following the way of Jesus, and this is why we continue to be led on a cycle of war, hatred and revenge, sickness and disease. The Bible is called the good book, so why does it teach of bad, like war? Because when you teach of war, some minds are curious to know what war is, and when you go looking for anything in life, you will find it. This is why America has caused more wars on earth and tortured, butchered and slaughtered more innocent people than all the nations of earth put together. This is because all they talk about is war. The more something is kept in your mind, the more you desire it. Therefore I say unto you, whatever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you will receive them, and you shall have them. Seek and you will find. All ancient religions have been tricked to worship the devil, and all modern religions that use the Old Testament as the guide and who ignore Jesus all worship the devil also. This is why they feel justified with war and revenge. Their new trickery to get people to go secular, the new Kabbalah, has begun, and the unity of all religions includes all religions, as I will show you. I am in no way insulting anyone's religion, just attempting to teach you why we are the way we are, because everything in life is what we believe, and when we follow the wrong belief, we always get the wrong results. This book has reference to the reptilian theory. It mentions the fight or flight side of our nature, and this book was written by a Buddhist monk, Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche. This is just as high up as the Dalai Lama. He says that the desire to squash a bug and the urge to condemn a person who disagrees with us are fundamentally the same. It's a fight or flight response, deeply embedded in the reptilian layer of our brain, or to put it bluntly, our crocodile nature. What shocked me about this book was the fact that one of the greatest Tibetan masters of all time was a murderer, and now he is considered a saint. And when you study the Catholic faith, you discover that one of the most important thinkers and a founder of this religion was Tertullian, a son of a Roman soldier. And in modern times it was Thomas Aquinas, an alchemist. This is why war and experiments are still a part of life in the West, because the thoughts of these people have been accepted. When you accept the thought from your leaders, you will open your mind to the source that guides them. This is another way for the thoughts of the other God to enter your mind. This is why Pope John Paul I told a shocked audience that the smoke of the devil had entered the Vatican, because when you think, you are given a guide to get what it is you are thinking about. This is because the more you think about something or think like somebody, the more you will receive it, because you accepted it. The smoke of the devil has always been in the Vatican, because this religion and all religions come from the mind of the devil's children, the Kabbalists. Jesus came to teach us a way of peace, love and harmony, and his thoughts were always guided that way, because he was being guided by his Father, the creator of all the good in our universe. Once you accept, it becomes part of your belief. This is why you must never accept what the doctors tell you, because when you do, you accept the disease and let it in, and then it will start to ravage your body and mind. You must never accept there are no cures, because there are. This is because there is always an answer to every question. It is how the secret works. You ask and they guide you. I know, because I have cured myself of asthma, and I am now seeking the truth, and the torchbearer of the truth and a healer is guiding me. So once you accept the thoughts of a murderer, these thoughts will be part of your thinking. This is how they easily get your sons and daughters to murder others and then get them to forget about it. This way, murder is always accepted. We must never forget about massacring innocent victims, because this allows them to continue doing it. We must teach of right and forget about wrong. This is the only way to remove these accepted beliefs, and this is why all religions are wrong, because they have accepted the thoughts from the other source, and the only way to remove them is to reteach the world that the loss of any life is wrong, and we must do all we can to protect and save life, and not a royal leader, religious leader, or the economy, because this way we can always be tricked to commit evil and think it is justified. When you accept someone's belief so readily because they are so-called religious, royal, or so-called knowledgeable, you become part of the link to their source and then a spreader of that message. This is why Jesus warned, "Do not look up to no man on earth, only the Father in heaven." You are all equal because you were all equally made in the eyes of my God, the creator of all the good, and the Father who is in heaven. He doesn't accept death in any way because he is the creator of life, and the key to life is what you accept, powered by your own mind that creates all your beliefs. My God's beliefs is what keeps you all alive. It is the experiments that go on inside you every day, even without you knowing them. Royalty, religion, and science have always defiled your beliefs and led you down the wrong path and always blamed you for your downfall. The only way to defeat evil is with the power of truth, controlled by the power of your mind. A further link between the religions is science, because when you accept science, you accept the knowledge of the other God, the cosmic serpent that created the apple. Once you open your mind to his trail of thought, you will be led down his path, like Hansel and Gretel, and give the devil access to the pathways of your mind. This book about mysteries that I got in a charity shop in Ireland teaches that Tibetan mythology teaches of Shambhala, the spiritual navel of the world. It teaches of an individual that studied in Tibet and said that high-ranking lamas, spiritual leaders, told him that Shambhala was located in England at a site called Glastonbury. Glastonbury became a major Christian site under St. Dunstan, who became abbot in the 10th century. This book that I bought in a book fair in London teaches that Pope Sylvester II, with the Abbot Dunstan of Glastonbury, were the earliest alchemists in the West. The Catholic faith was also guided by Thomas Aquinas, who we now know was an alchemist. And this is why they will not accept there are cures for all disease in nature. Cures come from the knowledge or wisdom of the God of all the good and the truth. This knowledge is perennial wisdom. When you are tricked to look up to these people or accept them, you accept their beliefs, and this is how the Pope got people to think homosexuality was okay when he said, "Who am I to judge?" Nobody asked him to judge, but speak the words of God, the creator of all the good, that taught it was an abomination. Once you accept these beliefs, they will enforce more on you, and this is why they are now pushing for the right to end life and paedophilia. And how is it that the Vatican is not speaking out? The unity of all religions is a thought from the other God that created all religions and all science, that all originated from the Kabbalah, brought to the world by the devil's children. Once you accept religion or science, you accept that path of thought from the other God. This is how thoughts work. So anyone that accepts religion or science as a part of their life are following the other God. They tricked you that they were children of God, as all your royal families did, that brought poisons and potions with them, that they used to destroy your minds and control you, and created laws to get you to kill each other. Then they brought religion that tricked you they were following the creator of all the good, but all their religious wars is proof of which God they follow, which ignores the teachings of Jesus, which were love, peace and harmony. Now they are tricking you as world leaders, that they say they want peace, who achieve their aims by lying and annihilating anyone that has differing opinions than them. All three of these empires brought the elements of the apple with them. Jesus warned you they would make you proselytes like them, and that is why the world is the way it is, and anyone that believes any different is insane or deranged, which means to disturb, to unsettle, to disorder, especially the intellect. I have shown you how they have achieved this, and it all started from within, deep within the avenues of your mind. Everything starts with a thought, so be careful and make sure you know where they have come from. The God that Jesus came to teach us of is kind, compassionate, loving, caring, generous, considerate, protective, understanding, positive, faithful, loyal, courageous, a God of justice and righteousness. This is how we should be if we are followers of God, our Creator, the God of all the good. This is the only way we can be. The devil is cunning, devious, envious, jealous, vengeful, angry, full of hatred, bitterness and destruction, greedy, sinful, shameless, manipulative, deceitful, a thief, a cheat, a liar, and a murderer. To commit any of these, you are a follower of the devil. If you do what he does, means you support him. I hope many of you watching this have watched the first part and you now have a better understanding of why you are the way you are. My accusation of poisoning the food chain still stands, and the sugar scenario is proof of this claim, and the creating of foods like the apple and the potato also solidify my claim. I also hope you understand that there are two creators, and this is why the controllers of all your countries believe that truth and lies are just opinions, which means judgment, conviction or belief. Belief, religion, religious faith, reliance, confidence, the mental act or operation of accepting a fact or proposition to be true, a thing believed to be true. That description once again proves that the Vatican are following a different belief, because it says the mental act or operation of accepting a fact or proposition to be true, and I am sure the Bible teaches that God, the creator of all the good, warned Adam and Eve not to eat the apple. So why do Catholic countries grow it and eat it when they are guided by the Vatican? It is because, as I taught you in the first part, they follow a different superhuman being, as Jesus our Saviour warned. Saviour, a person who preserves, rescues or redeems. He said, for the fight is not against human foes, but against cosmic powers, against the superhuman forces of evil. These are the forces that the Vatican rely on for their truth, and this is why we are living a life that opposes the truth of the Creator of all the good, because all disease is a lie, and is caused because of a lie. Sugar is one example from the apple, and parabens is another, and so is yeast. America consumes a lot of sugar, and America has a major fungal problem, and as I shown you earlier, our ancestors knew that yeast, a fungus, grows on all sugars. So how comes the Vatican didn't preserve this truth? It seems that we have been tricked to put our confidence and to rely on the wrong people, the ones in the white coats and the white collars. And this Pope should know of the dangers of food additives, preservatives and taste enhancers, because he was a food technician before he became Pope. He should also know, if he was a carrier of the true message of the true God, it is now obvious of who the Vatican are messengers of, as I shown you in the first part. When Jesus said, John chapter 8 verse 44, you are of your father the devil, your will is to your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Who is their father? Jesus is clearly telling the Pharisees that their will is to their father's desire. Their father is Shem, who had Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud and Aram. Abraham was one of the descendants of Arphaxad, and Abraham is the patriarch or founder of the Hebrews. Most of the royal families today are descendants of Shem or Ham, the two sons of Noah, which signifies prominence and mastership, and this is evident in British society today, but more so in earlier years. Shem is credited with the murder or the killing of Nimrod, son of Cush, and this is why Jesus said that their father was a murderer, because this nation are descendants of Shem. Shem is also the blessed of Yahweh, another name for the other God in the spiritual world that you now know as Noah in the physical world. Descendants of Shem have built all empires. The empire of Carthage, the African Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, and now the British Empire, which is alive and well and being enforced by America. This is why they are changing religion and removing all talk of spirits, which will remove Jesus our Saviour from all your hearts and minds, which will forever leave you all in darkness. This is why people like me have come to throw a bit of light on the subject, as we say in Ireland, and then you will all be enlightened. The world is hypocritical because the message they received has always been carried by hypocrites. First, it was your royalty that said they were children of the gods. They are Isis and Osiris, or Adam and Eve. They tricked their citizens to look up to the wrong God, because when you look up to anyone in this life, you become guided by the same source or force. All royalty followed the other god, the god of the underworld, the creator of the apple, because they carried this foodstuff with them to the west, and they all used alchemy or alchemists. This is why they all had food testers, because they believe that life is a competition or a battle or a game, and you can do whatever you like to win. This is the same principle of science. This is why Britain and America cannot be trusted, because they brought modern science to the world. They used this science to create weapons of war to help them fight wars that they created and take over countries of our world. They also used this science to cause sickness and disease, as their history shows. Your life is controlled by the power of belief. It is why they kept his main message from you. As I said, manipulation is very, very powerful when you have access to all the avenues of the mind, starting with religion and science, a system that has always used chemicals to shrink all your minds. The whole world cannot think for itself, because they have been tricked to put their faith in so-called holy men and so-called knowledgeable men. The world must now see that science is the truth of the other God. This is the religion and belief of the superhuman being that they follow. If you fail to heed the warning of our Saviour, unimaginable horror is soon to descend upon you. These people must be stopped. You must no longer believe in Britain, France or America. I do not want to scare any of you. I am one of many that are here to protect you and guide you back on the right path. What I have witnessed that will soon appear in our world, if we fail to stop them, has rocked me to the core of my existence. I beg all of you to heed my warning. I am a receiver of the knowledge from our Saviour. Do not fail to heed his warnings this time. I beg you, hear his message.